Welcome to Thrive in the Arena, episode 14.
Is it
15?
14? There
Wow.
you go.
With our extraordinary, fabulous, first of all, friend and client, Dr. Aisha Alsheikh. So let me share with you a little bit who this extraordinary, beautiful soul is. She's not only dropped that gorgeous outside, but also inside. She has a passion to transform millions of people's lives, and literally anywhere she is bringing joy, she is bringing laughter and happiness and restoration. She is a stand for so many people to live a life that they choose and they love to. And she does it very quickly also. So she's actually one of the very little therapists here on earth that literally can do that. Why is that so? Because Dr. Aisha Alsheikh has an extraordinary background of high value education, an education that is not normal for an average person. And let me warmly welcome her to Thrive in the Arena, episode 14. Please put your hands together to welcome our extraordinary friend, dear to our heart, Dr. Aisha, please.
Welcome to the show, Aisha.
Hi. Hi, thank you so much. What an incredible introduction. Wow, I'm really impressed by what you just said. It's really amazing, and thank you girls for actually sharing that. I really appreciate it.
We love you so much. Thank you
Love
so
you
much
too.
for your time. Thank you for your contribution to the world, what you're up to. And yeah, if you can share a little bit about you and your story before we start with a lot of questions that we have for you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Um a little bit. I don't know where to start. Which one do you want? The short version or the long version?
The short version, like who you are and why you do what you do.
uh, I've got two different strains of stories. One is an educational one, and then one is a personal one, and both diverge together to bring in who I am today. Um, as for the personal one, it's a bit difficult, but it's also one of those things that teaches you a lot of lessons in life. I didn't have the perfect childhood, as many people know. I'm open to talk about it now because I overcome a lot of internal struggle, and it came a bit later in the years. I wasn't able to speak before or even talk about this at all, but I realized my voice can be a voice for a lot of people in similar situations who would go probably similar to what I've been through or even worse, and they don't have a voice. And one of those things that probably I think what woken me up was Tony Robbins events where he said, you're the voice, you're like, and I realized, you know what, maybe I am this voice for many people who don't have a voice, who's been through tragedies and pain, and somehow it just is one of those things that basically allowed me to say, you know what, I'm not going to give up because I have a mission, I have a purpose, I have something that I want to give back. And I want to turn these circumstances that I've been through into something that is powerful and of value to help many people, as many people as possible. So basically, the short story of my private life is that I've been abused as a child, been through a lot of abuse, bullying, all kind. I've been through suicidal, been in a suicidal states, and also have been through, let's just put it this way, a lot of the years I've been clinically depressed. I've reached to a point where I've been really depressed, and it did affect everything, my health, my well-being. And it's only been recent years that I had a wake-up call where I was almost going to die because of the consequences of these emotional cycles I've been going through in my head. And I realized, whoa, if I don't do something now, my life, I will go through life. I don't know what life is. I never actually experienced what life is, even relationships or none of that. Just been like the walking dead, literally. It has been like a zombie, doing what everyone wants me to do, what society expects me to do, fulfilling other people's expectations and dreams. And I realized, what, this is not how I want to be. I've never even experienced life properly. Why am I gonna die now? I had basically different awakening moments throughout my journey, and academically I've excelled. I am one of those people who like literally would, this is the side that actually pushed me towards that formed who I am. That because I had a lot of expectation people had of me, that I came like from this traditional thinking, you need to be doctor, lawyers, like that's okay, because that's your parents always wants the best for you in a way, but that's based on their experience of the world. It changes over time. But for in terms of I was like, yes, I want to do that. I love learning anyways, so why not? And I went into it, and I realized I was just living other people's dreams, other people's ideas, and it's like at some point I reached to one of those self-realization of like, but what is mine really? What is my own potential? What is my own dreams? What do I want to do in this world? I never had the chance to discover that. That's when I started diving into personal development, and I realized like I wanted to explore more about myself, understand why do I have these emotions, why do I have these behaviors that are negative. At that time I was like having a lot of negative coping mechanisms, let's just put it this way, where a lot of people, some people go through drugs and alcohol, some people go through different addictions, compulsive behaviors. For me was food, and I realized that was my protection mechanism. A lot of people who's been through abuse, they suffer from let's say obesity, or it's because it's at a subconscious level your mind is trying to protect you from being subjected to the abuse, because at that time, at that young age, or at that incident, your mind said, oh, you're beautiful, you're attractive, that's bad because you're going to attract pain, people will attack you, people like, so what happens is here your mind is like, okay, in order to protect you, I'll make you ugly, I'll make you look horrible so people will not come to you. And that was just an awakening moment for me. And not only that, it's because I realized I did one of those Marissa Peer is one of my amazing mentors who literally changed my life, and I learned a lot from her. Like I've got a lot of mentors around the world, and I realized I have to go. My case was difficult, to be honest. Like I've been to normal therapy sessions, whatever, with school, whatever, but then it didn't really do much to me. It didn't resonate with me, and I was like, why am I this way? Is it that I don't have a cure? Is it nothing is working with me? Why? Then I decided, you know what, I am smart, I know I can do things, and I had the fortune and the blessings to, even though when I didn't really have the money, I somehow things started opening up for me. I started having resources, started, because I realized I really want to go find the real answer. How do these people live their life? What is happiness to them? So how can these people achieve things? How can they be happy? What is happiness? And then that's when I dived in. I was like, if I want to get the best answer, I need to go from the best and learn from the best in the world. And this is exactly what I tried, and I still do. And I still strive to find these mentors that are really done really well in the world. And basically that's the I tried to make it abbreviated, but this is like what happened. And uh, it there's so much I don't know what else do you want me to explain more, but like basically the combination of the knowledge and the life experiences put together pushed me towards never giving up, pushed me towards I know there's always a solution out there. Sometimes I don't know it, but there's always an answer. I just have to seek it. And that's what I've been going in my head. That was the way that made me not that made me stop actually uh, going down the complete destructive pathway. Is the idea that, you know what, there is always an answer to this. It's just I might not know it yet.
Yeah.
So my job at this moment in time, no matter how desperate I am, is to go find the answer and never stop searching and never giving up. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
well,
Thank you so much for that. We truly honor you. We respect and love you to bits.
thank you.
I love you too. It's very, very dear to our heart. It's an honor to have you in our life,
Thank you.
also to do work with you. Now, what would you say to a girl who is new to this concept, who maybe is like, or a guy, right? who is maybe in the middle of an abuse, whatever sort of form, and for them it's new, that there is actually hope. What can they do right now so that it can become real and they can start looking into other possibilities? Like you mentioned before, um, that one of the protection mechanisms can be food. If this person has this protection mechanism or another addiction, what can they do right now before they go to a therapist?
Right now is recognizing first, before you can do any changes, recognize that you have a problem.
Mm.
Recognize, understand there, you acknowledge there is actual a problem. Without acknowledging and realizing, yes, I actually do need help and I've been doing it myself and it's not working for all these years, there must be something wrong. That means I'm not doing it right for some reason. That means maybe someone else has the answer. So the number one step to anything, whether you are struggling through abuse, whether you are struggling through emotional turmoil like inside of you, is recognize you actually have a problem. Most people don't because they have their ego side or they're afraid of something. But understanding, even if you are in a, let's say, an abusive relationship, you have to understand that, first of all, acknowledge that this is not right. This is not right to be treated this way. This is not okay. And that's not normal. Once you understand that, then you'll be able to take action. Then when you understand the value of yourself, it's like, no, I would not be treated this way ever. In terms of abuse, unfortunately, with children, it's quite hard. That's a different case, which I can't get like into too much details in. But in terms of you're an adult and realizing, yes, most people who go through like depressive state or being through an emotional abuse, they have to understand first, number one, I am not happy, and this is not the life I wanted. So instead, what is it that I can do? Not what's happening to me, to what I can do. You see, the life you live is based on the standard you set for yourself and what you expect. Like, see, people would not push until you say stop. If you say stop, people will stop pushing. But if you let your people push you, then they'll be all over. So that's the standard you set for yourself. So if that person who's being abused, like, no, I'm not gonna be taking this crap anymore. You know, I'm not gonna stand for this kind. No matter what it is, even if you have kids, even if you have. See, I come from a broken home. Like I come like from my parents got separated when I was a kid. Okay, because of that, I, as a consequence of what happened, I'm not blaming any of my parents, but I'm saying because of this, at a very young age, I ended up being in a home where I got abused, you know, without my mom's knowledge or without my parents' knowledge for a long, long time, like from the age of 4 till like 9, beside the like other kind of like crap that I've been through basically. But like having that, like it's important, doesn't matter. But like even if you have kids, but she realized that I, because of the way, let's say, my father was to her, and realized like that doesn't work. It would be more harmful to the kids living in a toxic environment than actually being divorced. So it depends on the situation and it depends on the person, but always think, always respect for you, because if you're a mom, let's say that person is a mom who's being abused and have kids, the kids are in that toxic environment. The kids will watch the dynamics between the family. The kids will think, oh, this is normal. Sometimes it affects them as well. Not only them, it's like, this is how my father or my mom, whatever it is that they do. So understanding that, first of all, you have a problem, that you are not happy with your life. And the first thing, once you do that, what actions can you take now? What actions can you actually, what are your options for now? If you don't have an option, consult someone, talk to someone who's an expert, talk to someone who can actually guide you to the best options you can have and take. That would be my.
Thank you. Thank you. What would you say to a person who is ready to talk to somebody, but because they're in this craziness of pressure and fear, they need to calm themselves down before they do so, so that they can actually keep going on with their day without maybe being in a panic attack, without having like pictures in their head. Is there any exercise that they can do till they get to a consultant?
Yes, there is. There's always options. There's so many strategies out there.
Yeah.
People need to understand this very important concept.
Mm.
All the, let's say, anxiety, these stressful and thoughts and stuff like that, all the self-distorted image, all the low self-esteem, it all are symptomatic manifestation of a much deeper issue, which is your mindset, your expectations and your perception of reality. So what do you think it's real, what's not? Your expectation of how your life should be or not, and the way your mindset, the way you dialogue within yourself, the internal representation you have in yourself, that drives your life. That's where we live in most of our life. So understand that some people have developed a wrong sense of or I wouldn't say wrong, but I would say unhelpful belief systems,
Mhm.
and understanding sometimes that is not true. So, for example, believing that you're not good enough, believing that you're not loved, believing that you can't find a cure, believing that people are bad, believing, like, these are all experiences based on the things that we've been through in our life, but these experiences are only snippet of reality. It's not the actual reality. I really recommend people, if they want to understand how the mind works, to attend my workshop on anxiety and depression, because I really dive into the details of how our mind works, how our perception of reality form, and the biology of belief, and how we form these kind of beliefs, and how we can take this understanding and move on and do a better behavior. As in terms of the tips for that person that they can do, if they, for example, are in an anxious state, anxiety is just a normal reaction, physiological reaction to a threat.
Mm.
Anxiety, this is a normal physiology, it's a physiological reaction. You have to remember that it can be triggered because it's a perceived threat, that you have a threat in front of you, or it could be triggered by a thought. Thoughts are so real. Thought have It can change the way you breathe, it can change your heart rate, it can be powerful, but it can be nothing. So the more you think about it, you entertain, the longer time. Like, let's say, for example, what are thoughts? Thoughts are basically ideas or representations that pops up in your head, and they're usually incoherent, unorganized, random, and they are usually this happens when basically based on the information, what's happening around you in that moment in time, and also based on past experiences or information stored in your head. So it just comes up. However, how they become real is that when you start entertaining that thought more and more. Okay, it's like you have a thought, it's moving, you stop it. It's like, oh, and then you start like putting energy towards it and becomes bigger. That's when it starts having physiological effect in the body and becomes part of reality. So you have to be careful of what you do and put in your head. In terms of anxiety, what that person does, first of all, he believes his thoughts or she believes her thoughts are real, which is
Mhm.
not real.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I visualize there is a green monkey next to me and really, really visualize, it doesn't make it real. It's not real. So,
Yeah.
but some people, they're so living in the future or so living in the past,
Yeah.
and they are stuck there. And when people are in a state of anxiety, in a state of when they feel guilty, when they are actually practicing that emotion over and over again. When you're in an anxious state, you're practicing anxiety every time you go to the future and think about things, and there's actually not real. It didn't even happen. This is something you're focusing on, the things you can't control. So number one is always shift your focus to the present,
Mhm.
and fix it, and shift your focus on the things that you are in control of, not what's happening to you. I was speaking to Adam. I know you remember, yeah, Adam Cox, yeah. So I had an interview with him yesterday. So I was interviewing him in my podcast, and he said something really, really that resonated with me, and it was a beautiful example. He said, when you go through life, it's like as if you're driving a car.
Mm.
All you need to do is watch out for things, and the only thing you can control is the wheel.
Beautiful.
You
Nice.
can't control what's happening.
Alhamdulillah.
You know. And that was a beautiful metaphor, beautiful example. This is exactly what it is. We
Mm,
are in life, we cannot control what's coming to us. We cannot control what's happening in our life. You'll expect that disasters, everything that can happen, things not going away. But
mhm,
the only thing that you have the power over is the way how you manage your state and emotions, and the way you're actually your focus. This can happen. These are tricycles, like, these are like, you've got the thoughts, you've got the emotions, and you've got the actions, and they are
mm,
all interconnected and they affect each other. If you have a thought, it triggers an emotion, and this emotion can also trigger more thoughts, whether it's negative or positive, and that triggers more emotions, and then this cycle can be enhanced to trigger an action, whether it's negative or positive.
yeah,
However, it's the same thing. An action can change an emotion or change a thought. For example, if someone who is in a depressive state,
yeah,
the last thing they want to do is actually move or do something.
yeah,
I'll tell you the reason why people get depressed in a bit. But answering your question with regards to anxiety, people put themselves in a state of fight, flight, or freeze response. This
mm,
is a physiological response. It's a way of your body trying to protect you. The thing is, it's all starting here.
mm,
But the idea is, the way there are so many different techniques. One of them, to combat the physiological effects in your body that's happening, first of all, is breathing. There is called it's to combat the sympathetic response of your body. So what you do, there is something called 2-3-4 breathing technique, where you like breathe in 2-3-4, breathe out 2-3-4, hold 2-3-4, 2-3-4, hold 2-3-4, and exhale. So what you do, you hold every time you inhale, hold, and then exhale, hold, and then inhale.
okay,
This is how you calm yourself immediately down. This is number one, that's breathing. Number
brilliant.
two, number two, because it's a physiological response,
Yeah,
you combat it as well with physical action. Either go run down the stairs, start moving your body somehow, jumping up and down, I dance. That's one of those things I usually dance if or actually do the breathing technique. So you combine them all, and also shift your focus, the brain, the thoughts that recognize what is playing in your head in terms of the anxiety of it. And remember, you cannot control the future, but you can control. So one of the things is to do is that, okay, if this happened, what what's the worst thing that can happen about that situation? Okay, and
yeah,
then prepare yourself for it. It's like, and there's so many different techniques. And another technique would be, for example, practicing the state you want to be in when you are countered by that kind of anxiety state again. For example, if you know that you're an anxious, you're someone who suffers from anxiety a lot, one of the things is like, okay, whenever I'm next having an anxiety, what do I want to feel instead? Acknowledge the emotions that you want to feel, practice that emotion through visualization, and actually being in that state. Choose a memory that you felt like relaxed and happy, and keep practicing that while you're like, so next time you know what emotions you want to feel once you encounter a state of anxiety.
what do you do if you do this, but you have stupid pictures coming up and you cannot focus on what you want because maybe like the green monster is right in front of you?
Awesome question.
The best thing is about it is make it big. If you have a green monster, I'll tell you why. I'll say some people, yes, that's a good valid point, because sometimes when we try to practice the things we want to practice, we get these bombardment of other unwanted stuff. And
Yeah.
it's hard for people to push away because they don't know how. The best way to do it, as you are NLPers as well, is
Well,
magnify the image, knowing that you can magnify, then push it away, shrink it down, because that's when you realize you have control over these images. You know you have the control, because if you can magnify it, that means you can make it smaller. If you can make it smaller, you can push it away, you can shrink it down, make it black and white, make the pictures, put like funny sound to it, and you can get creative with it. It's a matter of practicing, that's all. So that's the way you can actually overcome that. That's for people who really have a lot of big images and that they can't get rid of.
And if it's coming back, what do they do? I mean, if it's coming back, let's say that it's like you did this or the person did it, and it's coming back and they cannot focus and they really want to get rid of it, or like keep going with their day.
Sometimes I'll tell you what, that they have this image. If they try this method and it didn't work, they have to question, what is this image is trying to tell me? What message is coming with it? Why
Nice.
why is this coming?
Mm.
Understand. See, our emotions are not bad. The feelings we feel are all messengers. They're like messengers telling you that something needs to change. You know, there's something that is bothering us at some level that needs to be acknowledged. You need to acknowledge it. A lot of people just bury the feeling by eating, drinking, alcohol, whatever, because they don't want to feel. But actually, you actually need to feel. I recognize that these feelings are there.
Mm.
They need to be felt because they are messages. They are trying to tell you something. For example, if you're feeling angry, someone is angry, it's because someone violated a boundary they have.
Yeah.
But sometimes people get angry, they perceive that because of their expectations.
Yeah.
And in reality, someone did not actually violate their boundaries. It's just their way of understanding the world, and someone crossed that. But understanding, it's also a message that is telling you something. When someone is, let's just say, feeling, uh, for example, when someone goes into a depressive state, when they get into a depression, one of the things is, as I mentioned, is they focus on, their expectations does not match their reality. Meaning, so they have a way of knowing that the world should be a certain way, their life should be a certain way, you know. And when things does not go their way, then they focus on it. That's when they say, oh no, this is not how my life is. And also when they don't fulfill, when they stop doing the things that makes them alive and makes them like enjoy things, and also when they don't fulfill their heart's desire, as Marissa also said. So one of the things is about their reality does not match their expectations. So if, for example, if someone wanted to be something and they tried their hard or failed so much that they couldn't achieve it, they get in a depressive state because it's something they've always wanted, they never got it. The problem is, the only way about this is to actually, first of all, shift perception, change the way your expectations are of your life. That's
Mhm.
number one. Or understand, when we seek something, we're trying to seek a fulfill an emotional need.
Mhm.
Yeah. For example, if someone wants to be a lawyer or a doctor and never achieved that in their life, what is their goal? Why was that goal there in the first place? What emotions are they trying to get from it? Is it the emotion of certainty? Is it the emotion of importance, or the feeling, the need of feeling important? Remember the 6 human needs, the hierarchy of needs, either by Tony Robbins. Also, he took it from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's actually, we've got 6 emotions and needs, and we need to understand what are these needs out there. When someone is in a depressive state or acting in a bad behavior, let's say if they are in an addictive state, what are they trying to fulfill? They're getting the addiction to numb what? The feeling of not being loved, the feeling of wanting attention, feeling important. So some people can do actions to seek fulfill a need. They need to recognize, what is that need? Is it the feel for certainty, being knowing for sure that I will not be alone, knowing for sure that I will be loved by doing this action? I will get attention, feeling important. I would get attention. You know, when people get into a bad behavior, is a call for attention. Is it because they're lacking that in some way? But they're behaving in a wrong way. They're manifesting that in a wrong behavior, and some people get addicted to that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Some people get so stuck into their cycle, that's the only coping mechanism they know.
Oh wow.
And sometimes when they it's hard for people to change, because sometimes, because they are familiar with that coping mechanism for years and years and years, they feel stuck. And when we come in as a therapist or coach or whatever, now not only we are trying to make them understand what's the root cause of that mechanism, because this mechanism stemmed from somewhere in the past. Something happened, this mechanism was useful at some point, because everything our body does, our brain does, is a matter of protecting us. It's making us supposed to survive on this earth. It's not supposed to make us happy. Okay, so the idea is this behavior formed at some point in the past due to a certain circumstances, and these circumstances are mostly protective. Most of the time, it's still trying to protect it. However, as we grow older, this coping mechanism is not serving us anymore. It's actually ruining our life more and more.
You know, what you just said, actually, we can relate into this season as well. Like with everything that happened, people dealt with it in different ways. Some people took it, the season, and ran with it, and others perhaps are feeling left behind. So, for those people that are feeling that they missed out or left behind, what are some ways that they can break through that mind cycle that they're going through and carry on and truly do now what they want to do in their business?
What do you mean by left behind? If you can just explain what you mean.
Yeah, so in terms of everybody has been taking advantage of this season, but some people perhaps didn't use this season to flourish in their business. Business wise, you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Business wise, okay. So everyone reacted differently and everyone had their own way of looking at how, first of all, some people are good at accepting and adapting. Some people are not. So the more you accept that, okay, we are facing this problem and we need to quickly change our thoughts and behavior and our strategies, the better they can survive. See, we didn't survive as a species, as human beings, because we were like the fittest, the strongest of the fittest. We survived because we are most adaptive. So when people, some people can be in denial, stuck still in denial. So when you are stuck in that phase, that's the unresourceful state, because that's like the grief state when you lose someone because they suffer a loss. They feel like they suffered a loss. They suffered their freedom, the loss of their freedom, the loss of their businesses, the loss of. So some people are not having the right mindset, I would say, or the right strategic mindset of in terms of their reactions to the situations that happens in their life. That's why some people thrive better than others, because they've got better. First of all, they accepted that this change is coming, and they were willing to change their strategies rather than dwell on it. So that's why you've got some businesses that thrived. Like, no, they saw it as, you know what, we need to adapt to this, how we can, and started going into the solution mindset rather than dwelling on the problem. Why is this happening? How can this happen? What, oh my God, we're going to lose this. It's like, no, switch to that mindset of, okay, this is happening, we're in it, accepting it. Okay, what can we do? That's, and what can we do in a way that is actually making us better, especially when it's that's one of those things that the mindset, the questions is, I always tell people, it's the questions you ask yourself that matters most. If you ask yourself useless questions like, oh my God, why is this happening to me, why is this happening, and like, this is something, some, we ask ourselves a lot of like really stupid questions. Your brain will give you the stupid answers. But if you ask yourself, how can I take advantage of this situation? What are the hidden opportunities in this situation?
Yeah.
How can I make someone else's life better? How can I make my employees' life better? How can I actually keep the company together? When you switched into that resourceful state, that's when you become more productive and actually save yourself from that. So it's all to do with asking the right questions to yourself whenever, whatever situation when it comes in. So no matter what problems you say you encounter in your life, first of all, realize you cannot control the things that are happening to you. You can only control what you can do about it. Second, ask yourself the right questions. Even write them down. Maybe Google some questions that are really good. So next time you're ever in similar situation where you feel like entrapped, or you feel like something big is happening in your life, use these questions and ask yourself to use them, and use them to be when to get out of that situation.
Can you share a few questions for different situations? For example, if a person has an addiction, what questions can they ask? If a person feels that they are depressed, what questions can they ask? Simply like to have.
Okay. Um, one of the questions you do is first of all, act as a detective. Whenever you're in a state, take the scientist method or the detective. You become the observer. You become the observer of your life or your
Yeah.
situation at that moment in time, and say,
Mhm.
okay, what triggered me to be in this state in the first place? What was the trigger? What was the things that pushed me to be? Because sometimes these are the habits loop. What will happen is you get a trigger, and then you have the behavior, and then there is a reward. So when you are, and let's say the trigger, you come home, okay, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to, like, you feel down. Suddenly you feel down. Okay, what you do? Some people will go to the fridge. Some people will I don't know, smoke. Some people will drink a glass of wine, and then just for them to relax. But the thing is, why are you trying to relax? The thing is, why? What triggered this behavior that made you go to the fridge and get an ice cream? You know, so one of the things could be either feeling lonely, feeling down, feeling disconnected.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people, what you do when you behave a certain way is trying to reconnect with something, having that comfort, certainty. So the idea is identify that behavior. So you identify that behavior, identify the thought patterns. As Marissa said, a habit of action begins with a habit of thought. You
Okay.
know, when you have a habit of thought, that triggers a habit of behavior or action. So understand what is that thought that cycles in your head, and acknowledge it, realize what it is, because everything starts with awareness. So when you do that, realize, okay, this is the behavior I'm doing to cope with that trigger that happened. So first of all, identify your triggers or cues, and then you understand the behavior, and then after that, identify the reward. What am I getting by doing this behavior? What is that reward that it's keeping me stuck in that behavior? Because some of them is instant gratification, some of them connection, some of them could be like feeling connected to something, changing emotional states. Because when you drink, eat, you're actually changing your you're changing physiologically or biologically, you're changing your body. So you're trying to change the way you feel. But understand is like, okay, if I am, let's say, these are the questions. Okay, acknowledge what are my cues, what is the behavior I'm doing, know what it is exactly you're doing, understand what am I getting out of it. Is it feelings? Is it emotions? Somewhat? Is it like, identify it. Second would be, for example, what else would you? Um, there's a lot actually. There's so many different things. I'm trying, like, suddenly my mind went blank. Um, oh God. So that's like one of the oh yes, identify the needs. Identify of the six needs.
Yes.
Identify what is that you
Yeah.
actually I think people who don't know what I'm talking about the human needs, which is certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, feeling importance, growth and contribution. So these are the six human needs, like I was talking about. So identify which one of these you're actually seeking in order to seek that behavior. So that would be my kind of there are so many other things I can get into, but for that moment, first of all, it always starts with awareness. Once you identify that, then what you can do is replace that behavior. You cannot replace the cue usually when it comes a habit, when you have a certain behavior. Okay, identify if you're alone, what behavior can you modify? Instead of going and watching TV or eating an ice cream, what can you do instead to give you the same feeling?
Oh, so people need to look to get the same. That's why they're a detective. So they need to replace the action that
Yes,
they're doing.
you can't. You might not. You can still get the same reward, but the thing is, the trick here is understanding what is it that you're seeking.
So give us an example here. This is
For
so good.
example, if you are seeking, for example, if you come home,
Yeah.
suddenly you feel down and you go for the fridge. I'm giving you the simplest example that probably most people do, or go for a
Yeah.
glass of
Ice
wine.
cream.
So here could be that the trigger is being home and being it empty. Okay, the trigger here feeling that the need of connection.
Hmm.
Okay, so what you do, instead of connecting to an ice cream or glass of wine, call a friend.
Okay.
Call a
Right.
friend to fulfill that need. So every time, it could be calling a friend. It's about connecting to someone else,
I
connecting.
It's so good. I have a question. Like a lot of our clients, we work with a lot of female clients, like entrepreneurs, and a lot of times, like operating in this in a business mode, um, people neglect the feminine aspect
I'm
of,
guilty of that.
right. So all this, connecting, calling a girlfriend, going dancing, simply being and doing their nails and stuff like that. So um, there is a lot of like different coping mechanisms. How can like women in business, maybe they started eating, or they have like other addictions, or they're like numbing their feelings, and they're not like being open to themselves. So we see so much out there. How can they reconnect to their femininity, and basically, yeah, what can they do to?
In terms of in terms of the femininity, as you said, the thing is, the problem is nowadays, it's because of the virus. A lot of these things that you're talking about is hard to do unless they are willing to take it as a ritualistic thing at home to do it.
Why
And
not?
and also if they have someone with them. Like if someone is on their own, you have your sister and stuff. If someone is on their own and stuff, it's good to, it's first of all, we try to numb our feelings. This is the opposite behavior of what we should be doing. We always have to acknowledge our feelings. We have to acknowledge them because, as I said, these are messengers. They're bringing useful messages to you to tell you there is something. There's either a warning or a message or something that this our circumstance somehow needs to change for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's always good to change the way you feel, but by moving your body, as get into the visualization more, or go visit a memory that was good once, good for you.
Oh, nice, nice.
Visit a memory that you really enjoyed yourself a lot and relive the emotions.
Oh,
The thing is, I'll tell you what, 80%, we have 60,000 thoughts every day, average, based on a study. Okay? 60,000 thoughts a day, on average. 80% of these thoughts are negative by default.
how much?
What?
80,
No.
80%.
Oh my God.
This
That's
happens
a lot.
80%. That's why, remember about the garden, James Allen, yeah, James Allen, the book, As a Man Thinketh. It's one of the simplest but most beautiful, beautiful
Right.
books.
Yes.
Like I read it and I keep reading it over and again because I feel like I'm discovering every time I'm discovering something I've missed previously.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful but simple book. It's like this thick. It's not that, like, I finished it in half an hour.
Yeah.
Like you can read it easily, and so if you're a fast reader, you can finish it less than that. But I like to contemplate when I read. I like to think about the ideas and stuff, like, and write it down. But he said, like, our mind is like a garden. Literally, it's exactly true because, as I said, our thought comes up automatically. And imagine 80% of these thoughts are negative. Like 60,000 is what, like, okay, I'm not gonna do the math. I forgot now. Was it 48,000?
That's fine.
Okay. So they are negative by default. That means we have to actively, literally, actively reinforce positive thoughts all the time.
Oh, wow.
Reintroduce positive thoughts all the time because if
So
we
how
left
much
it,
can we do that?
because these thoughts are like weeds. They come up as weeds
Yes.
in the
Yes.
garden. If you left the garden, if you left your mind without anything,
You
you will
don't want
have
to see
all
our
kind of things growing.
garden. You don't want to see our garden.
Right now, our garden.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You by default, everything from media, from information, from other families' beliefs, whatever, will
Yeah.
start like growing if you don't take care of it. And that's why you have to actively participate in taking care of your garden because it will affect the good things. If you have good plants in your garden and
Yeah.
you left it and you let weed grow, negativity and all that affect you, and you actually not actively plucked it out, it will ruin the good things you have.
Aisha, how like with this work that you're talking about? So if we say that 80% of the thoughts that a human being has is negative, with doing the work, how much percentage can they restore and be actually
Nice.
happy?
You're going very
Can we get to
technical here.
100% of happy
Yes,
thoughts?
You're
This
very.
question.
bravo.
It's not about being happy. It doesn't even have to be happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. Like you can't just be that way. But like in a state of peace, in a state of restoring balance, rather than it's by acknowledging and noticing. Okay, I have these negative thought. Okay, ignore it or let it pass, and replace it with something more useful that you want to have. Actively work on it because this affects the bonding and creation of the neurons. Remember, the more we enforce an idea, you already have a memory. You've consolidated the memories. These neurons are connected. They're firing together, like the synapses are connected. And what happens is when you have a thought, for example, one neuron fires, the electrical transmission to another neuron, a thought arises. This is the definition that is known currently in the scientific world. However, the thing is, the more you fire if you have that thought and you started firing it, the faster the connections will be. When this happens over time, you it becomes automatic. So if you have a negative thought that you're repeatedly playing in your head, this is what you're actually doing. You're actually strengthening that bond. Well, what you need to do is, okay, you have this negative thought, keep it aside. Now you have a pattern or a behavior that you've already strengthened over the years that was negative. What you can do is create an alternative one. An alternative one basically meaning, okay, this, let's say if you are saying to yourself, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid by default, everything, sometimes something bad happens, like, I'm so stupid, I shouldn't have done that. When you keep saying that, your brain registers it and takes it as real. You have to be careful of the words. See, the language of our brain is the images and the words we say to ourselves. The images we see and the words we say is the language of our brain.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful. This is how we can control the way we think and feel. Okay, it's the images that we put in our head and the words we keep telling ourselves because the brain literally takes an act on it immediately because thinking it's real.
So does this new pattern or behavior, does it completely replace or break the previous one,
Yes.
or it's
Yes,
just
if you stop, see, this is the best thing about our neuroplasticity of our brain. So if you have a better idea that you keep firing and wiring together, forgetting about the previous, it's called the Hibbs rule. When it's like firing and wiring the neurons together. So what happens is if you have a positive thought replaying with the emotions, so it's not good to say, oh, I am great or I am smart, I'm smart. You have to actually feel it to create that physiological response. Actually see yourself as being someone who's smart or someone who's brave or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So what happens is, so you have this, the more you keep repeating that pattern of thought and emotion, the more you strengthen these new neuronal connections, while the other ones start diminishing away because if it's not used, it's destroyed, literally. So that's how you rewire your whole brain by actively participating in your activities in your brain. So an emotion, like this is an important thing to remember. You Just because you were a certain way doesn't mean you can be there forever. You're not stuck that way. You are literally creating your own reality. You are the master of your own fate. Like it doesn't matter what like when people say, oh, this is what's happening to me, they play the victim. You don't want to be the victim. When you're in a depressive state, you're playing the victim. You're playing the victim. You need to be the survivor, the one who actually takes action and fights for their life, rather than just give up. Because giving up is easy.
uh,
Well,
Very nice.
you know.
What about people that say, I was born like this, or all this stuff happened to me, and this is why I'm
Yeah.
like that, and you don't understand, this
Mm,
can't change.
very
Does
good.
that mean that you can change everything, like every behavior or thought that you have, or are there things that you can't change?
See, there are very, very few things people are born with, unless it's stated factually by genetics saying you are having this disease because of
Hmm.
this. Most of the other stuff are based on unhelpful belief system, based on other people's ideas, and this is something you've created usually during childhood without you being aware. That's why that's where we come in, like the therapist and the psychologist and hypnotherapist, is because they uncover the part where you don't even remember. Most of our actions and behaviors are unconscious. You're on autopilot most of the time. You're always in your conscious brain thinking, and all that these thoughts and stuff are in the conscious awareness. But there is unconscious part of our that drives our behavior. For example, when you're driving a car, you think, "Oh, I need to go to the laundry. I need to pick up this. I need to visit a friend. I need to call this friend." So you're living in this world, but in reality, who is actually driving? Where your hand is going? Where your leg is going? You're not conscious of that because it became automatic, it became unconscious. And the thing is, this is what happens. Most of our life is unconscious. Most of our behaviors are unconscious. But recognizing what is the belief that is driving a particular behavior. Let's say someone who's self-sabotaging in a relationship.
Very good.
Nice.
Sabotage. Okay, what is that behavior? Why are they trying to do it? There
Give
must
us
have
an
happened.
example. Give us an example. Like how can a person self sabotage their loving relationship?
So why this happens, for example, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what. It depends on something. It always comes back to experience that they encountered in their life
Okay.
or observed from other people. Like something, it's a learned experience or something that they've experienced themselves. Mostly, it's something they've experienced themselves, and this experience have created a pain. Our brain holds on to pain more than pleasure. An experience that was painful to us will the our brain will do whatever it takes to protect us again from suffering from that experience.
Oh.
So what happens is here. So if someone, let's say, suffered really had a bad heartache, like someone who like their relationship at an earlier stage in their life. So what happens is they formed a belief. There's something, a particular belief system. Let's say someone like, oh, all man can't be trusted,
Very nice.
for example.
Yeah.
Okay. When they form this belief, they start even if they're not thinking about it, they start behaving. They do what? They start testing the man. Oh,
Wow.
I need to do this. I want to see if he loves me or not. I want to see if he's gonna behave this way in front of other girls or not. Would he be protect? So a lot of people start playing games, and this is not something. i- this is where it happens. If a guy is a good guy and you have that belief system, you start acting on it. You start behaving in a way to protect yourself. So it's a protection mechanism at the end of the day. When you're
Wow.
self-sabotaging, it's a protective mechanism. But you need to figure out what is it that you're trying to protect yourself from. That's something a therapist would can only help you with, or RTT therapist, as like because that's the best way to get to the root cause of the problem in one session. I'm not trying to advertise, but this is like the most effective thing that actually worked with me because I've been through different therapists and I know like and I discovered a lot about myself I've never discovered before. So it's an amazing, it works. Anyways, so
So
moving on. The idea is
how can a person that is self sabotaging in the relationship stop that so that they can actually save the
not
relationship?
know exactly what is that limiting belief and eradicating it.
How?
Hmm.
Therapy session,
There.
RTT. I hypnotize. The thing is, people don't understand that because our actions and beliefs formed from a very like most of the one that the core beliefs
Yeah.
are formed from a young age.
Hmm.
Um, most of us don't know it. We think we know it. We think maybe this is the reason why, but
Yeah.
we actually most cases they
Mhm.
don't.
Mm.
And because it's in the unconscious mind, the only way is to alter your brainwaves. So what happens is the only way, so you have got the conscious, unconscious, no, subconscious, and then unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is very deep, you cannot really access it at all. Sometimes, however, when you go, these are on different brain wavelengths. So we've got the beta wavelength where we're alert and we can do stuff and we are focused and everything, and then you get into the alpha wave where
Yeah.
you're in a meditative state where you're like relaxed. This is the meditative alpha wave, and theta wave. So these are where you, theta is more deep, like really, really, like when you are people who mastered meditation in a deep level. This
Yeah.
is when they can reach that level of like brainwave. And you've got the delta, which is when you're unconscious or asleep.
Yeah.
What happens is sometimes the unconscious opens the gate during hypnosis or during relaxation or meditation and shares a bit of the information of the past with the subconscious mind. And
Mm.
what happens is during this phase of your brain, when it's on alpha or theta wave, what happens is you will start accessing memories or accessing events that could have made you realize what actually the root cause of the problem is. And that's what we do. So what happens is when you are in a hypnotherapy, people are scared because they've got the wrong concept and idea. It's actually
Share this with us too. I
you're already everyone.
remember
Most people are already on altered state all the time. As I mentioned in the car, when you're driving and thinking of all the things, you're on an altered state.
Yeah.
You're not actually being, you're going inward. You're not actually being aware of your surrounding that much because you're
Yeah.
on autopilot. And this is an altered state. It's not an alert state in a way, you know. And the same thing, it's actually being in an altered state. You know, throughout the day we go through different altered states of mind where you're daydreaming. You know, you're in a different brain wavelength here. When you're in a creative mode, when you're alert and stressed, you're in a different brain wavelength here. So,
Yeah.
so you are altering that naturally. But people are scared because of the way Hollywood portrayed things in the media, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of crazy things. But with RTT, it's different. RTT is more about being suggestible. So when you, for example, if you saw, this is how advertising works. So, for example, if you're hungry, suddenly you saw a picture of I don't know, McDonald's, let's just say. I hate McDonald's. Like, I'm sorry, but I shouldn't be saying that. I don't really like
That's all right. Fine
McDonald's food.
through. That's fine
I
through.
know a lot of people do, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you saw an image, but you weren't hungry. You weren't hungry, but you saw an image, okay? And suddenly, after a while, I'm thinking, oh, what shall I have for lunch? Suddenly, that burger pops up in your head, and then what do you do? What you do, you go buy one. Most people do, okay? And this is just a very, very simple, mild example.
Yeah.
However, this what happened here. Your brain got suggested, was open to suggestion. And what we do here, we actually give the useful suggestion to reprogram that belief system, you know, to actually give you the right suggestions to. And it takes a while because you will get a recording after that to need to replay it after a while to reprogram your mind,
Yeah.
because this is what you need to do. Once it's done eradicating that belief, then
Uh-huh.
you'll be able to move on to explore. Maybe you can have other beliefs that you've formed as well, and you
Mm.
have to unblock all of these in order to have a more fulfilling life. But most of the time it's just like one session is usually enough to take away a lot of the, like, the big plug that is holding you, you know, from moving like forward in your life.
I have a question. Can you tackle in one session two limiting beliefs?
You
Oh,
can, yeah, you
Yeah.
can, yeah,
Okay.
you
Okay.
can. It depends. However, there are cases
Yeah.
you can, you see, for me, I would do whatever it takes to tackle as many issues as possible. However,
Oh,
there are
yeah.
cases, for example, trauma cases, for example, eating disorder cases, for
Yeah.
example, it depends also what comes up in the session. So I can't just say, oh, you're going to be cured in one session, but it
Yeah.
can be up to 3 sessions maximum. But that's it. You don't have to keep sitting and doing stuff. But the
Yeah.
idea is because sometimes we access certain memories, but we don't explore them very well. So you might need another session to really dig deep down on the actual beliefs that you actually form to eradicate. It's like taking the roots cause of the problem out.
Yeah.
And and that's why sometimes we need more, because some people are complex. They have multiple different complex belief system that you somehow need to knit and pick. For
What
example,
would be this? Because like
I
if
wouldn't do, for example, I wouldn't do confidence issues with a depression.
okay,
So these are two different issues. So you
sure.
tackle one issue at a time. You know, that's what I mean.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Thank you.
So, Aisha, what about if somebody wants to take this concept and in a micro kind of level implement it in their home, so without going to a therapist right now?
Yeah.
If they wanted, for example, what are there ways that they could be more suggestive to the positive beliefs, that they can replace then that negative belief with a positive belief? I don't know, like fill the room with positive stickers or
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
got, I got, I got what you mean. First of all, they need to, if they can't identify what the root cause of the problem, they need to recognize what is it they think the root cause of the problem is. For example, if they feel they are not good enough for some reason, whatever it is, they feel like they behave a certain way because they feel unloved, you know, recognizing that, that's number one. And number two is actually what beliefs they want to believe. What is it that they want to believe? So write it down. Write down what is it that you want to believe in instead.
Brilliant.
How do you want to live your life?
Mhm.
We are the writer of or the script for our lives, literally, because our thoughts changes our behavior and our reality, literally. So understanding that, first of all, okay, what is it that I want to have in my life? What is the feelings I want to have in my life? What are the experiences I want to have in my life? Understanding what beliefs I want to, if I want to believe I am good enough, I'm more than good enough, you know, I am, if I'm someone who feels I'm unloved, I would say, no, I am loved. And this is why and why and why and why. You know, because sometimes we form a lot of concepts without solid support to support the idea. Understand, okay, is this belief or this idea, what support do I have to support that? Think I'm not good enough. What experiences have I experienced? Sometimes people have one experience, but they make it a reality in their whole life. So if they had one bad experience, they make it their whole reality. So now every time they believe that they're not good because of one incident, because of someone who's an asshole made them feel that way, let's say. But like, eh, just that's one. So recognizing, number one is recognizing what potentially would be your limiting beliefs. Uh, Understand your fears. What are you afraid of? What is your biggest fears? Understand these fears and understand what is do you want to do instead, what do you want to feel instead, you know, what is it that you want to be in instead. And visualization is a must, like it's something that you always want to, this is how you wire your brain. Visualization meaning that you actually embody that feeling or that word that you just said, I am enough, and experience it throughout your whole body.
Very nice.
Amazing.
What I mean by visualize, not just say, "Oh, I'm a affirmation." Doesn't really work because it's just words. Like, okay, doesn't make okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good enough. I'm good enough. And you cannot. You actually can like you have to look at the images and bring the good memories to support that belief.
I
Really, visualization.
What is the difference? Last question, and then we like to you to share where people can find you, and if you have your services online also. But what is the difference between incantations and affirmations?
Mm.
Incantations is what Tony Robbins, you mean when he says like it's
Yeah.
something that you're trying to reprogram your brain. He does that like incantation is something you say on a regular basis that becomes part of you.
Mm. What's
So
the difference?
like you know when he said oh God, God's wealth is circulating in my life. His wealth flows to me, through me, and back to me in avalanches of abundance. So my needs, desires, and goals are met instantaneously with infinite intelligence, and I give thanks for all my good now. These are incantations. These are incantations where I do that. I do it myself. That's why I remember it. And
I did.
these are to get you into different state, to get you in a state of certainty about your ability, and it get you into this like this is my, you know, priming, what he talks about priming,
Yes.
getting yourself in a state. See, when you go to the gym you need to prime.
Yeah.
When priming meaning, for example, listening to motivational videos on the way to get you into that powerful state. I'm gonna smash that session into the gym.
Hey.
Yeah.
This is what I mean, like getting into that state, getting yourself into that emotional state. What
Yes.
was the other one? Affirmation.
Yeah.
Affirmation is just repeating the word over and over again. So it's a bit kind of this is my understanding of it. I'm not sure. I haven't really explored, but I know affirmation is saying I am. It's trying to incorporate it into your identity.
Okay.
So the thing is, this is the thing. One of the important thing I need to mention is that
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they say I am an anxious person or
Oh,
I am anxious, or they say my anxiety, my depression, these are powerful words
yeah.
because they are making it part of who they are rather than a state.
Wow. This
So
makes.
when they do that, the body will treat it as a loss. If
Yeah.
you say, "Oh, I don't want to feel anxious," no, 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 I want the anxiety because it's mine.
Oh,
So you
whoa.
have to understand that
Yeah.
when you own the words, it becomes part of you, and it's
Yeah.
hard to change who you are. In a way, in a way, but you can change that. But by the words, remember, our brain's language is words and the images, so we
Yeah.
need to be careful of what we say. So instead of saying my anxiety and instead of saying my depression, it's like the anxiety or the depression. So you change that because it's not yours, it's
Yeah.
not something you own. Because when you say it's mine, it's I am, it's you are incorporating it into your identity. And once things become part of your identity, it's part of who you are, and it's really hard for things to change. That's why if you want to become a better person or say a better entrepreneur or as like I am great. So the affirmation is actually using I am to incorporate it into your identity part.
Brilliant.
That's the difference,
Thank you.
my
Brilliant.
understanding.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So, Aisha, these RTT sessions that you are doing and all the therapy sessions, is this also available now online because of the pandemic? How do you do this?
It's yes, I can do it through Zoom. I usually this is my like that's the best bit about it. The thing is, I'm updating my whole at the moment. I'm having like grouping all the ideas of my business at the moment. So I only take 5 clients a month. That's it, no more than that.
Oh,
I have very limited availability, and because it takes. First of all, these sessions, I will do group sessions. I will do other activities. I will do, for
yeah,
example, I'm planning to do other events that's coming up.
yeah,
Uh, and this is more for the general like people, and some of them are free anyway, so you can find them, especially webinars about anxiety and depression, because I know this is a big problem and I really want to help as many people as possible. However, when it comes to one session, like if you want handheld experience where I can actually sit down with you, coach you, teach you, then I only take 5 clients a month. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's a month program. So for a whole month, I only take 5 people, which where I work with them on one-to-one basis, coach them on one-to-one basis, basically be in regular calls and stuff. But however, I've got other programs on the way.
What
So
about this rapid transformation that you're doing? Is this also available
that's
online?
yes, we can do it online. Like if I got you as a client, let's say, I have a program for a whole month
Mhm.
as a client where it combines both coaching and RTT therapy.
Mhm.
Because I believe that yes, you can tackle the unconscious mind, which is important to eradicate these beliefs. However, what are you gonna replace it instead?
Yes.
And what strategies you might need help with, because there's so much you can do by yourself, but having someone who's an expert, having another perspective out there who
Yeah.
knows some of the strategies can help you also to accelerate your growth. So that's why I believe incorporating therapy and coaching together is more powerful.
Mhm.
And for me, I always want to have amazing results with
Love
people.
it. Love
So
it.
that's why I'm not taking too much, because I know it's more than 100% of my own time, and I want to give my whole attention to my clients. This is not something, because their success is my success.
That's
You
great.
know? So
Yeah.
that's what I believe, and I believe strongly that I am like, this is something I always tell myself. I always like, this is between me and God. Like, so it's something that like God is working through me to heal as many people as possible.
Yeah.
This is like I'm a healer of the mind, body, and soul. So for me, that's the belief I install in my head, and
Yeah.
try to fulfill it as much as I can for my clients, for the people in the world. So yeah, this is what I basically at the moment currently. This is what I do.
Mhm.
As I said, 5 clients. However, I will be coming up with more packages, more events. I'll be collaborating with other amazing people to bring as many benefit to the people as possible, because that's my vision, is to change the people's mind, change better people's lives. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share basically.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much, guys. We share Dr. Aisha's social media handlings and everything, and website on the comments. So if you need to reach out, give her a follow. And yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
with
so much,
us.
guys.
Such a powerful interview. Thank you,
Love
thank
it,
you.
love you.
Thank you, girls. Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity. Love you.
Love you too,
I
darling.
do- if there's any question for people, let them text me and let me know.
Exactly. So if anybody has any questions, you can either leave them here, or you can reach out directly to Dr. Aisha and ask her any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, girls. Bye.
Share and comment on this video, guys.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.